Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options to Play video update. So, it's the stock that everybody's focused on, stock that everybody's talking about, and it's definitely the main event for the week, right? Netflix. So, just to throw this out here before we kind of get going, I'm leaning towards not playing this, and I'll go through the reasons in a couple of minutes, just as the video goes on, but. When it comes to trading catalysts, not every setup is created equal, right? There's going to be instances where things are much better. Netflix quarter to quarter, right? So I mean, not different stocks, different times, but like just same stock, different quarters, right? I thought last quarter was a really nice setup. Just in the sense that it fit the what I call the bounce back quarter bill pretty well. Ended up having the bounce back quarter, but the stock didn't have as nice of a reaction as I was hoping. So you can see what I have highlighted here in the circles are the stock on earnings the last 3 quarters. Let me put it should be up here. So you can see 2 quarters in a row, big pops, right? Back in July, it had the miss, which set up what I call the bounce back quarter, which is company that has a good trend of strong earnings, strong stock performance. In the quarter they finally slip up. The following quarter, you're looking for a strong bounce back print. So you're looking for a strong beat, strong sub guidance. In this case, Netflix, the subs are super important, and you're looking for a snapback to close the gap or a reversion to the trend. And I was looking for a move into the gap on Netflix, right, above this 385, 388 area. And it hit it and stalled right at it, and it never managed to close this gap. And it just set up this really sharp move lower, which, hindsight, right, ended up telling you that there was like a serious risk-off environment coming to tech. So fast forward, and now we're at this quarter, right? So the bounce back quarter essentially is past, right? Because expectations are back to being high again, right? So they missed, expectations were a little bit lower, and then they beat those lowered expectations. Now you've had basically 3 upgrades. So the stock is up 50%, actually a little bit more than 50% since the end of December. You've had at least 3 upgrades that I know off the top of my head in the last week and a half. So not only is the performance fantastic, but expectations are starting to get really, really high, which, it's neither here nor there, right? It's setting the bar higher. So, I mean, Netflix might still come out and blow it out of the water, but the bar is higher, and the stock has reflected that. So it's just tough to figure out, how much is left here. So I personally, again, like I said, I probably won't be involved with this, but my bias leans to the bull side. Like, I think last quarter was a really solid print. Things seem to line up well. They just had a price hike, so that might factor into their future guidance, right? They don't have China exposure, so that shouldn't be an issue. So it just seems that the number things are lining up for a pretty strong number, but you have to wonder what is priced in at this point, and that's the tougher scenario. So there is still this gap, right? And going into this week, the weekly straddle is pricing in about 29 now. So it's actually kept coming down. So when I first talked about Netflix on our coaching session last Monday, it was about 36. On Friday, it was about 34. Right? When I was looking at it on Monday, when I did a video highlighting Netflix again on Monday, it was 30, and now it's down to 29. So you can see that it's steadily coming down. So even as the stock is going up, the options are coming down. So that tells me that people are more interested in selling premium into this print, at least right now. I mean, that could change tomorrow. Maybe you'll see like a late flurry of activity and push those up. But for the last week and a half, the options have steadily decreased as the stock has steadily increased. So some mixed currents, right? Again, this still could be a mover. It's just like the problem that I have is that it's just not a clear setup to me. There's gaps. There's multiple gaps on the downside. It's at a gap gap down to like 335 just from that price hike announcement, right? And then there's another gap from the upgrade down to like 325. So there's a couple gaps down, a pretty significant gap above 388, which would put it back above 400 if it did close that gap. This was basically right at 400 this quarter. So either 400 or back down to maybe 325. Options are pricing in 29, which is not it's not huge. It moved 30 back in January, moved about 31 back in April. This was a bigger move. It was 56 because that's when it got hit, and then it had a bounce back print of about 34 last quarter. So if you average it out, say mid 30s, right? So 29 underneath what it's moved on average, but still not really cheap compared to some of these other stocks I'm looking at. So what I was thinking maybe is doing, this is kind of like being like a little tricky, like saying like try like a calendar put spread, thinking that, even if it's good, maybe what happens is you get maybe like a more muted pop and a retracement, back down, a reversion back down to the mean, right? A pullback after a really fantastic run. So selling short-term puts, buying longer-term puts, looking for a pullback down into like maybe the moving average congestion area in like the 320s. But again, like my thinking is that the number will probably be strong. So thinking like a bearish bet when my gut's telling me it's strong, it's just kind of like a tough push and pull, and it's really what's leaning me to pushing me more to leading to not touching this one. But some people want to get involved, and I totally understand. So that's why I wanted to highlight there are a few gaps, and I do like gaps on a chart when a stock reports. And Netflix obviously has a history of moving pretty consistently up or down, so that's also a good thing, right? Whether they beat or miss, or whether expectations are high or low, the stock has really had a nice history of moving regardless. So that's good. So I mean, basically what you're watching is if it gets 30 points higher, will it break out and make a push to the gap to close 400, or 30 points lower? You have a couple gaps back down to like the 325 area, and obviously it's up 50% in like 2-3 weeks. So I mean, a serious selling pressure could snowball pretty quick, and this could really roll over pretty fast. But anyway, so even though I'm not playing Netflix, or at least right now I'm thinking about not playing Netflix, there are other names I'm looking at, and once we get past Monday's holiday, so we got more MLK Day on Monday, then it'll really start to pick up towards the end of next week. Got some major tech names, and then really like the next month it's going to be super busy. So even though I've been a little bit more hands off with some of the setups this week, I do think that there are a lot better setups coming down the pipe. So I am personally looking forward to that, and I think that there should be some really good opportunity. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about Netflix, or let me know what you guys are thinking for a trade, right? If you want to run it by me, or if you just want to like call it out, saying like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm thinking. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear everybody's opinions when it comes to these types of things. So whether in the comments of the video, or if you want to reach out personally, like definitely pass that along. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Hope you have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.